1 minute. Hello, Luis. So, hello, everybody. Thanks for showing up in this webinar. And I'm happy to see people from all over the world, from South America, from Asia, from Africa, from Italy, from Canada. So I think also if we are not so many, but no even, and if we're not so huge number, but we are all our countries are represented, at least the continents. So I don't want to let you waste time, and therefore I would like to start immediately. Just before starting, I only would like to greet Professor Sali, that is an icon for the Buiatrics world in Italy. I cannot tell the age, but we can say taught to all of us, and also to Giovanni, that is one of the speakers. So, and I go immediately to introduce you the two speakers of today. And the first part, presentation of one of our members, the National Buiatrics Association of Austria, Walter Baumgartner. Professor Baumgartner was not only the professor at the university, at the veterinary school in Vienna, but he was also the president of our association, of the World Buiatrics Association, from 2000 to 2006. And he will present the Buiatrics Association. And then we have in the second part, we have, let's say, the scientific part of our webinar. Professor Giovanni Gnemmi, he is a consultant, is originally from Italy, but now is based in Spain. He is a consultant for a private company that is Bovine Vet International SL. It is a company that gives consultancy in ultrasound and earth management. And Giovanni is also a professor at the veterinary faculty of the Catholic University of Valencia, and has a huge experience all over the world, because he gives consultancy, I would say, in all continents in our planet. Therefore, thank you for taking part to this webinar. Let's start immediately with the presentation of the Austrian Buiatrics Association. Walter, thank you for having accepted our invitation. So please, the floor is yours. If you want to share the screen, I know that Peter is already ready in supporting us in this webinar. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Walter.
Okay, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank for the invitation so that I get the possibility to present you a little bit the Austrian Buiatrics Association and the connection to the World Association for Buiatrics. And also I would like to give an overview about cattle and sheep and goats in Austria. What's really, how can I remove this line above? Hopefully, so now it's okay.
We don't see it. Don't worry.
Okay, then it's okay. Then it's okay. Thank you. This here are the numbers of the cattle herds from 1960 starting to the year 2021, and you may see it decreased significantly from more than 300,000 to 50,000. When you compare always the first and the last data, you may see exactly what was going on. The same for the number of cattle, you see decreased also significantly the number of cows, and also the number of dairy cows, which they started to count in the year 2000, were exactly from 620,000 to 526,000. What's interesting, in opposite, the increase of the numbers of cattle per farm from 7 in 1960, 60 years ago, up to 35 now in the year 2021. But anyway, the number of cattle per farm is very low in comparison to many other countries. Predominantly, we keep the breed Fleckvieh Simmental, approximately 75% of the total of 1.8 million cattle. And this is followed by Holstein with 7.3%, Brown Swiss, Pinzgau, Limousin, and Charolais and Moor-Bodena, as you may see here. This is again, so just that you have an overview and impression, you see the Simmental cattle, Fleckvieh cattle, they are 3/5 of this our cattle population altogether. What's interesting is that the milk yield is increasing to 7,800 kilos for 350 days in the standard lactation. And you may see also the milk content and the milk components. And this is a nice picture how we keep our cows under Austrian conditions in the mountains, in the Alps, up outside of the stables. What's also interesting is probably for many people that the Simmental cattle, they have maintaining their meat yield. And beside this, in the last 2 decades, 3 decades, they made an enormous genetic increase also in the milk breed. So it's a breed for those purposes in this case, you see. And you know exactly Holstein, Pinzgau, which we keep also in our mountains, predominantly Brown Swiss, Limousin, and other breeds. The performance development in the milk yield in Austria in kilogram since 1950, as you may see here, in the last 70 years, we started approximately 3,000 kilogram, and this increased, what I mentioned before, to 7,800 approximately. So was a permanent increase, a significant increase of the milk yield. What's characteristic for our farms is we have very small structures, and they are quality oriented, these family farms, very small farms. You saw this in the number of cattle per farm. They have their own food production. They produce milk and meat with one breed, predominantly with the Simmental cattle, Fleckvieh, and they have more stability for the farm. This is a very important aim also. We saw and we observed a very good development in the milk yield with good ingredients, and the farmers pay attention also, are focused also on fitness and the useful life of these animals. And also these farmers in the small farms are allowed to participate in marketing. And the goal of our farmers is cattle breeding lies in the hands of farmers. This is very important, probably in contrary to many other countries where the numbers of cattle are much higher. One important point for me is that the cattle population in Austria is really very healthy, probably one of the most healthiest in the world. When you see this, we are free since decades from bovine tuberculosis, bovine brucellosis, leukosis, but also we were using a different system to eradicate this IBR and PVD infections you see in our cattle population, and therefore we got free of this, eradicated these microorganisms out of the cattle populations for many, many years. And what's also probably interesting for you is concerning the blue tongue disease in Austria, with the last case in 2016. You see, the restriction zones were lifted in February 2019, and now we are more than 4 years. This is a mistake, sorry, free of this blue tongue disease in our country. Some words to the number of sheep in Austria. The number of sheep is increasing, slowly increasing, and the number of sheep keepers is really the same. You see, so we keep now approximately 400,000 heads of sheep in our country. But in contrary to that, there's a real significant difference to the number of goats in Austria, which we keep also in the mountains predominantly, you see, but also in the flat plains. From 60,000 up to 100,000, there's a typical increase because young people, especially young people, prefer milk and milk products from goats and not from cattle and from sheep. Now I change over to the Austrian Association for Buiatrics. It's an independent national association since 1961, a very old association. And the seat of the association is University of Veterinary Medicine, University Clinic for Ruminants. I come back to this point in Vienna, Austria. In 1992, I overtook the presidency of this association. So it's some years ago. And my aim was to renew and to activate this Austrian Association for Buiatrics. My basic idea was to this time, we have to enable the practicing veterinarians and students of the work outside in the field of bovine, of ruminant medicine and practice. And the students, but also the veterinarians in postgraduate education, they should receive practice-related continuing education in the field of ruminant medicine. Now, we include also camelids, and come back to this point later on. The general objectives are to promote the Austrian research also in ruminant animals. This means not only in cattle, but also in goats and in sheep, as you may see in this case. And to keep the veterinary practitioners, and especially also, and this is a very important point of our association, the students who are interested in this field of ruminant medicine, interested about the results which we received in Austria, but also abroad all over the world. We attach great importance to promote the young talent. This means so we are running practical rotations at the university, and I come back at the end of my presentation. We will offer also to the students now in workshop a better education in field of this practical experience. During the General Assembly of our association, we elect a committee, and this consists of 4 members, like all over the world, I think, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. But beside this, in our Austrian Buiatrics Association, it was always very important for me that we have also advisory board with special experts for specific cattle, for specific disciplines in bovine medicine or ruminant medicine. And probably what other associations don't show is there's also one student in the committee, and this student will be elected by all students who are interested in the field of ruminant medicine, and he can give all his comments and arguments during our sessions and during the whole year. In August, at the beginning of August, we had 565 members in our association. This means 383 veterinarians, veterinary students, and 30 sponsoring companies. There are a little bit more students now, so probably we have 578 or so members at the moment. So it's a very high number when we calculate that we do have approximately 700, 800 veterinarians outside in the field who are confronted with ruminants. We are acting in a very close cooperation with the University Clinic for Ruminants, especially with Professor Dr. Thomas Wittek and his team. This is a picture of our university of veterinary medicine in Vienna, Austria. Besides the contact to Professor Wittek and his co-workers, we cooperate also with veterinarians outside in the field, and especially I would like to focus this really with veterinary students. We publish since 31 years now a journal in German language, not in English. German language is called Tierpraxis, Claw Animal Practice. You see, because when I started with this journal, I was the head of the clinic for ruminants and swine. So you see just one edition of this, you see. And what's important is there's also one article of the species pigs there inside, because what I mentioned before, it was from the beginning like this, you see. But the edit since 2013, Professor Wittek is contributing always with specialists, one article on New World camels. And what we are doing also is we try to train these students who are really interested in the field of farm animal medicine really very exactly. And therefore, we invest a lot of money for the education and for several programs and scientific projects. For example, the students have to finish a diploma thesis before they leave the university, and these projects will be supported by us by up to 4,990 euros, not more, because otherwise we had to pay 20% to University of Veterinary Medicine. So I would like to save the money for the students and for postgraduate education of veterinarians. And altogether, we subsidize 5 to 8 projects by year for this diploma thesis project. You see, not always 5,000 euros or 4,990, but approximately we spend 20,000, 25,000 euros for this point, you see. Beside this, we support for doctoral thesis 1 student, female or male student, who receives twice in 2 years 5,000 euros. The total amount is 10,000 euros, only for living expenses without accounting. So they can use the money for whatever they want, you see. The aim is that they can complete the doctoral thesis faster than other students in 2 years or whatever, you see. Beside this, it was always very important for me that students who have been interested in ruminant medicine accompany me to Middle European Buiatrics congresses. And you see, bring always 15 to 25 Austrian students to these conferences, Middle European Buiatrics Congress, or to the World Buiatrics Congress, for example, to Lisbon, 12 students, or to Quebec, this time 2004, 32 students. And in Cancun, we will see that we also reach a number, we'll talk about this, with the students and Professor Vitek. And we support the students, depending on the Congress, with 50 or up to 200 euros per student. So it's also a lot of money, but it's important. Beside this, we subsidize also street prizes for the best diploma thesis of the last year. So the winner will get 700, the second 500, the third 300 euros for the diploma thesis, and they are allowed also during a meeting with Animal Health Service and our association to present in a short way their results to the veterinarians. We issue regular newsletters to our members of the Austrian Association for Buiatrics, including materials and the topics what I announced just before. Beside this, we are in close cooperation with practitioners and with animal health services outside in the field. This means we organize meetings together with several associations in different provinces in Austria. So 4 to 5 meetings per year, you may see, and we see there between 60, 80, 90 veterinarians and students who participate in these meetings. We organize this, we implement this, and we work together, as I mentioned, from the Austrian Buiatrics Association with Animal Health Services. Besides this, as you know, many people of you know that we are running this Middle European Buiatrics Congress, which has been founded in Hungary in 1990 by Professor Hoffmann from Germany, Professor Otto Sense in Hungary, and myself from Austria. And we are looking always for a place of organization in Middle Europe or in Eastern European countries. And many veterinarians from different European national buiatrics associations take part, 200, 300 or more participants are present there. And we take also, as I mentioned to you before, 15, 20 students along with me. And it's a little bit a pity that the other countries do not bring a higher number of students along. So, but I hope in the next year when the Czech National Biotics Association, we organized this meeting in April in Brno in Czech Republic. Also other countries will bring their students along with them. Some words why we see problems with biotics like in all other countries in the world, but also in Austria, you see. One of these points is the University of Veterinary Medicine. We have a few or no practical questions during the entrance examination. It's only theory, and for men or for young boys, it's really very hard sometimes. We have many female students, excellent students also from foreign countries, especially from Germany. But when they finish their study, they leave Austria. Again, because some of them have less interest in ruminants, so we are running out a little bit also of veterinarians who may be successors outside in the field in bovine practice. The education, the practical training is insufficient. Probably also a too short time is characteristic for that. And I would like to express really my opinion. The errors are not due to the clinics and to the trainers. Not the head of the clinic for ruminants of other clinics or institutes at the universities and their teams responsible for that mistakes in the practical training. But I think the ministries do not fund enough money for that, and also the top university managements not able to change the system really. Therefore, we have a lack of young veterinarians. I repeat this once more. It's not depending on the people who work very hard in this field at the universities, like in other countries, you see. But food animals are not as important for the managers at the universities, like small animals or horses or whatever, you see. So therefore, we have an idea from the Austrian Association for Biotics, and we said, okay, the students need more practical training already during the study at the university, before they leave the university. And we said, okay, we create and organize workshops at the University of Veterinary Medicine and also outside in the farms. And what's important is we invite now the students for the first workshop from the Austrian Association for Biotics and in cooperation with the University Clinic for Ruminants. And we focus there on practical training in clinical diagnosis of diseases, especially in ruminants and in new world camels. You see, this is for us really very important. Students are allowed to take part in that. We have first date is on 15th of October, 10 to 14 hours. This is not correct because we have to double the course now, because we thought we would have only 20 students. We're limited to 20 students, but now we have 40 students, so we have to repeat the course, you see. And the students who are members of our associations, they are free, have free access, you see, and the students who are without membership of our association have to cover the cost for 15 euros, but I think that these students will also become members during this first workshop. Okay, deadline was the 1st of October, and we have 40 students who are interested in that, and we will repeat this. And we will show them inspection, palpation, percussion, auscultation, investigation of these animals. As you may see this in these pictures here, what we are doing and what the students are doing under the supervision of Professor Witek and his team, you see, this is very important. Beside the clinical examination, also auscultation, percussion, taking urine samples, rectal examination. Beside this, also ultrasonography and handling with animals and taking care of these animals. This will be all very important. So, and we try to organize this every 2 to 3 months. So this means 4 times or 5 times a year with clinical examination on this species. And we will change the topic. Once we will take, we didn't decide this up to now, but respiratory tract or digestive tract or urinary tract or other and so on, we will go through so what the students are more interested so that they get really experience in this field. At the end of my presentation, I would try to focus you a little bit on the connection between the Austrian Association and the World Association for Bariatrics. The Austrian Association of Bariatrics is affiliated to the World Association as the Austrian National Groups for Bariatrics. And the committee of the association may choose one of its members to act as a contact person or correspondent to maintain the connection to the World Association.
Giovanni mi ha attaccato il webinar e io non sono capace di entrare. Sta parlando. Dove sei?
Can I continue?
Yes, you can continue.
Okay. So I was not 6 years as professor, as the president said, 2006. I was 16 years president, Mr. Cancello Gentile, 16 years president from 2000 to 2016, not to 2006, but it's not important now anyway. The currently board member from our association is Professor Dr. Thomas Wittek. He is a member of the board of the World Association for Bariatrics. What we did in the last weeks, together with Dr. Heimberg, with the secretary of the World Association, we corrected some incorrect entries on the homepage of the World Association for Bariatrics. Founding members of the World Association have been the German and the Austrian Association for Bariatrics. And I thought, okay, I have to go to Hanover, and I would like to find the report where we can find exactly what was going on during the first meeting in Hanover. And I received information by Dr. Gundling Natasha, and I thank you really very much, because we found a paper, and this tells very clear what I knew from my head of the Clinic for Ruminants, the director of the Professor Klawischnik. The World Association for Bariatrics, the foundation did not happen 1960 in Hanover, Germany, but took place 1962 in Vienna, Austria. This is the first point. There has been World Association for Bariatrics founded completely, okay? And the first World Bariatrics Congress was also not held in Hanover 1960. This was the preliminary international Congress. It took place 1962 also in Vienna, Austria. So this is, we corrected this, and now it's on the homepage. I thank Professor Dr. Heimberg really very much, and Dr. Gundling, that we have been able, and also Cancello Gentile, Professor Gentile, that we have been able to correct this really in the right way. Now I thank you very much for your kind attention, and I hope that many national Bariatrics Association can overtake some points what we are doing for veterinarians, and especially for veterinary students who are focused later on to work in the field of ruminant medicine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Walter, also for the last details on the beginning of our association. I just can say that I was born between the Congress in Hanover and the Congress in Vienna, because I was born in 1961. Therefore, I don't know whether I belong to Hanover or the Vienna time.
Yeah, this is true.
We are not used to have discussion in this webinar. You touched many topics that are very important. One of them, I would like to emphasize the role and the commitment of the Austrian Association for the student. We know perfectly that you always take a big group of students to the Mid-European Congress. This is something that is very nice, and that I know that many associations do the same, but perhaps as you do, not really all associations. And another issue that you mentioned that is perhaps worth of being discussed in the future is the problem of Buiatrics teaching at the university, of the number of students that are willing of working in veterinary bovine practice. This is something that perhaps we could consider to be the topic of one of the future webinar. Thank you, Walter. So one of the reasons why we organize this webinar is just to let our association members to introduce themselves, to show what they do, what they organize, because it is important for all of us that we are the member of this association to have an idea of what our partner, of our member, the other member of the association are running. Therefore, this is the reason why I asked the president of the local association to introduce their work, to present their history, as Walter perfectly did. Now we move to the next part, to the scientific part. I hope Professor Sali did manage to follow your presentation. I hope that Professor Sali can hear us and can follow also the next part. The scientific part, as already mentioned, is Giovanni Gnemmi will be our speaker, will be our panelist. Giovanni, as I mentioned, it is both a private consultant, but also professor in Spain. As mentioned, he has a huge experience in gynecology all over the world. I know that he gives consultancy in, I would say, in all continents. Therefore, Giovanni, thank you also to you for having accepted our invitation, and the floor is yours with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Arcangelo, just a question. I am in pharma, and we had problem with the connection. That this moment is not excellent. Can I close the camera?
Yes, yes, we can all close the camera, but I hear you perfectly. For the moment, it's okay.
Very well, thank you very much. So I want to tell hello also to Professor Sali. That is not an icona only in Italy, but I believe that is a reference point for internal medicine and for reproduction for many Buiatrics around the world. So first of all, I like to thank the World Association for Buiatrics for inviting me to share my experience this afternoon. Well, I believe that we have a very big difference about reproductive management between continents. We have different between countries of the same continents, and sometimes we have difference also between different parts of the same country. But I believe that despite this difference, everyone that is involved in reproduction have a similar goal. So to get pregnant as soon as possible for heifers and cow, which regular delivery, better if with the Calvin index 1 or 2, and to produce an healthy calf. Well, I believe that the original goals for the vets that are involved with farm animals is that probably our main goal when we started to study at the university was to be part of the people that are attending the feed for the world. Well, now I am 63, and sometime when I think this noble goal, I have the impression that it's not still between our priority. And I have the perception sometimes that the new technologies, sometimes very sophisticated technology that we are using in reproduction, but not only in reproduction, are used only to improve the income, the profit, and to disrupt 100% of the genetic potential of the cows. Well, I believe that our rule, like Buiatrics, is to optimize production and reproduction. And I believe that this is important, but we have to do it respecting two main principles. The first one is that the food safety or the consumer safety. So we must optimize production and reproduction performance, but without to forget that we have to produce milk and derivated meat and derivated that are safe for the consumer. And the second point is that to optimize production and reproduction performance of the herd is important, but with the respect of the full respect for the cow's welfare and I'm speaking not only for intensive system, but also for extensive system for dairies and for beef business. Well, we are living today in a globalization, and I think that the globalization seems to be pushing continents apart instead of to bringing them closer together. So was an interesting social project, the globalization, that's supposed to reduce the gap between continents and between countries inside to the continents. But instead of this, I have sometimes the impression that we have an impoverishing of one part of the planet, while in other part we have the benefit. And unfortunately, are exactly the development country where this gap is more strong, is more hard, where there is the bigger concentration of the cows. Well, I believe that during the first part of the globalization, it's natural that appear logical and natural difference, cultural difference, social difference. But unfortunately, instead of being interpreted as a value, as an asset, are being instrumentalized. Instrumentalized because the goal was to generate fear. And probably also deep anxiety between the people that today have afraid of the difference instead of to consider the difference an important part for to grow like society, like a world society. Well, I believe that the result of this fear, of this anxiety, has been that many people today, instead of to decide a constructive confrontation, preferring to really on a single thought, the strong thought, the dominant thought, as if it were an absolute truth, a dogma that leaves no room for the discussion. And well, probably you are thinking why I'm doing this introduction. I am speaking of this when I was to do a scientific presentation about the difference in repro management around the world. Well, I believe that in reality, there is a very strong connection between what I introduced and bovine reproduction. I believe that this attitude is this separation between two different parts of the world, a rich part and a poor part, is an aptitude that involving also the production system at all the level. Well, if we are speaking of bovine reproduction today, we have two big parties, very radical. Each one is very radical, and they are represented from the same acronyms, that is WAB. The first one is without all hormones, and the other one is with all hormones. Well, are two opposite point of view of the same thing, so bovine reproduction. Well, I believe that those people that believe that today the only way for reproduction management is the synchronization of the estrus, synchronization of the ovulation, price synchronization, race synchronization. Well, I believe that they are not able to think a future outside of this way. But at the other hand, we have the other people that believe that generate prostaglandin or HG or PMG are dangerous, and they consider the use of a simple prostaglandin like an attach of the health of the consumer and a form of mistreatment of the cow. So I believe that we are speaking of two radical positions that honestly today is very difficult to accept and to justify. But observing certain extreme position of those who are against the use, for example, of the animals for food, well, I have the perception sometimes, I think, that often this attitude is not also the result of the opulence. It's an attitude that can be afforded by those who have never experienced the hunger. Well, I was telling different continents, different strategies, and apparently different goals. But I believe that these different strategies are the result of different types of farming that becoming the goals of our study of my presentation of today. Well, speaking of dairy cattle in intensive system with homogeneous distribution of the calving, like gynecologist, I have some main goals. So I'm not too aggressive for the first insemination. So my first goal is to be able to do insemination of 100% of the cows during the first 100 days in milk with a conception rate over 35–40%. I became aggressive in the second and follow insemination. So I like to reduce the interval between insemination to maximum 42 days. So this means to start a preg test 32 days, and the cows that are open with the CL will be inseminated 35 days. And the cows that are open without a CL, thanks to an intravaginal device, will be inseminated 42 days. Well, the third goal that I follow is that between 130 and 150 days in milk, I like that 75% or more than 75% of the cows of the herd are pregnant. And the last goal for that I follow for the cows, that between 190, 100, 2010, 20 days, I like that no more than 10% of the cows are still open. And the cows that are still open at 200 days, average 200 days in milk. So this means with 3, 4, 5 insemination, well, are ready for the parking. Well, my goals for the heifers are very simple too. So I want to start insemination when they arrive 55% of the adult weight in dairy, 65% in beef. And well, I like that my goal is to be able to get pregnant these heifers no later than 16 months. And this means that I want that 85% of my heifers delivery between 22 to 24 months when they arrive 80–85% of the adult weight. So are ambitious goals for sure, but it's something that today is something that we can produce working well, and is not so difficult like this goal can show. Well, I believe that speaking of reproduction, independent that we are speaking of dairy or beef in intensive or extensive system, with homogeneous distribution of the calving or breeding season, we have probably the most important critical point today in reproduction is still the poor detection rate. So also today that we are disrupting different electronic system, activometric system, well, we have still farms that have a detection rate that is less than 60%. Well, probably for this reason, over the last 40 years, the research worked very, very hard, but also before the 40 years, to try to develop system methods to improve the e-detection rate and service rate, and so also the conception rate. So the goal was to inseminate the cows as soon as possible. Well, today we work with estrus synchronization with PGF2 alpha, but we know very well the limits of the PGF2 alpha. So it's not necessary only a corpus luteum, an active, very good corpus luteum, must be not too young, not too old, but is necessary to work above all with an active dominant follicles. And it's very important that the prostaglandin can produce a higher level of totally luteolized. This is the reason why since 2013 has been introduced the second prostaglandin. Well, one of the problems of the prostaglandin is exactly that is a very good method, the synchronization of the estrus in those farms where heat detection is very good. But in farms where heat detection is not so good, so efficiency and or precision of the heat detection is not outstanding, to work with prostaglandin is very, very, very difficult. Well, for this reason, in 1995, has been proposed for the first time a synchronization of the ovulation. The of-cinch 95, it is very different respect the of-cinch that we are using today. But we can tell that of-cinch have changed the strategy of to do reproduction. Thanks to the of-cinch, in 2000 has been presented the first prey synchronization, because the of-cinch is granted the best result in the of-cinch 56 is guaranteed the best result with in cows with 2 follicular weights with an active dominant follicle battery 15-16 millimeters in presence of a corpus luteum. Well, to start the breeding of cinch exactly in this window has been developed prey synchronization. Today, we are working with the pre-cinch of cinch that has been presented in the version 1414 in 2000, 2006, Bello and Richard Pusely presented G6G. In 2008, Souza presented double of cinch. Well, I believe that today, thanks this method, for sure, is improved the heat detection rate, is improved the conception rate. So we have not to forget the merit of this strategy, but to think that the synchronization is the solution of the problem of the reproduction. I believe that is a big mistake. The synchronization is a complementary method. So is helping the farmer, is helping the veterinarian to maintain a higher service rate and conception rate in those periods, in those farms where the heat detection is not excellent. But believe that we can support the reproduction and the repro management only with synchronization. Well, I believe that is a dream, and above all is a big mistake. Well, the result of all these methods are connected with the compliance. We have to respect the time schedule. We have to use correct needle, correct syringe. We have to do a deeper intramuscular injection. So we have to do the injection in good position. So and then we have to manage the hormones, respecting some parameter. For example, generate is start the destabilization over 15 degrees. Prostaglandin are starting suffering, so over 22 degrees. So if we want to maintain higher result in terms of conception rate, it's not necessary work with pre-cinch of cinch 1411 or double of cinch long version. Everyone can work with this, but the difference between different farms with the same protocols, with the same drugs are enormous. Well, I believe that all the methods that I described have advantage and disadvantage, but I believe that this method have a good chance in some country. Probably in the rich country, but are we sure that this method have a chance in developing countries? And what I am looking is that exactly in the developing countries that we have the bigger concentration of the cows. So I believe that we have to accept that there is not only one typology of reproductive strategy, and to try to work with methods of management of reproduction that we are using in an intensive system in very high production dairy farms, use this, for example, in a developing country. I believe that's absolutely a big mistake. So we have to accept that in a development country, the management of the reproduction include other typology of problems. not only to see the cow in heat, but nutritional program for problems for these cows. And then sometimes the major part of these herds have natural service. And in many cases, we are speaking of people that to do an insemination of a cows have to walk for 5, 6, 10 kilometers to go to another farms where they have the bulls. So, well, I come back to the original question. What we are doing, we are doing a management of the reproduction, but which is our goal? Well, I have the impression that sometimes we work and we distract the potentially of a cows only to improve the income, only to do money. And probably I have sometimes the perception that we are losing the original idea, the original goal, so that we are working to improve the quality of the life of the people, to prepare the feed for the world. Well, I believe that today we have to consider a sustainable production. What means sustainable production? Well, I'm not speaking that we have to forget the use of the hormones, because in some reality, in some country, the use of the synchronization is sustainable, but in other country, it is not. So I repeat, I believe that we have very open mind speaking of bovine reproduction management. Well, we have to consider that today there are farms that are still milking not with the parlor, but by hand, are farmed with 1 to 2 cows. And as I told before, are farms where the only choice for the insemination is the bulls. And sometimes the farmer have to walk a lot of kilometers to arrive to find the bulls. But at the same time, we have farms today that are using ovum pickup, in vitro fertilization, and there are doing a use of the best technology, like a robotic kitchen, like robots for the parlor, or every typology of high technology. Today, we are working with transponder, artificial intelligence that is not telling me only if the cow is coming in heat, but is offering me a lot of information about the health of the cows. Well, so the conclusion. About the conclusion, well, what to tell? Normally, when to do the conclusion, is necessary to do a synthesis and to try to generate some proposal. I don't know if I have a proposal to do, because when I was younger, I believed that I was with a lot of answer to all the questions. Today, that I am 63, I have only doubt, and I'm not able to contest to the question. So I'm only convinced that we have to be very open-minded in the management of the reproduction. It is not easy to find the correct way today. It is not easy because the market is changing, the society is changing, and because also the cow are changing. But at the same time, I believe that we have to become artisan. We have to remember that the reproduction, it is not only an application of synchronization or a use of prostaglandin or to do an artificial insemination, but we have to build a program for the reproduction on the shape of the farms that we are following. So what I want to tell, that there is not only one good method for to attend the reproduction, but we have a lot, and they change in function of typology of our clients. Many people are against the hormones. So my critics to the system, it is not because the hormones is dangerous. So today I do this provocation. If I like vegetarians, if I was vegetarians and I was eating 100 grams of Russian salad, 100 grams of salad with 5 ml of soya oil, I am taking about 3,500 nanogram of estradiol benzoate. Estrogen, sorry. But if I eat 300 grams of entrecôte of a cow that I treated with 2 milligrams of estradiol benzoate 24 hours before, I am introducing in my body more or less 3 nanograms of estradiol benzoate. So there is any scientific evidence that the hormones, the prostaglandin, the GnRH, the ECG, and the intravaginal device are dangerous for the cows and for health. But the consumer don't like this style of management of the reproduction. And we have to consider this type of exigence of the consumer too. So today, if my position is a dynamic or flexible reproduction management. So I try to take the best from the organic system management and from synchronization. So I believe that we have to attend better and better the transition period. So I am not speaking of 21 days before and 21 days after the calving. For me, the transition starts when I put in dry off the cows and finish when the cow is pregnant after the first insemination. Well, we are speaking of 120 days. So we have to attend the housing, we have to attend the health of trimming, selective dry off, deparasitation, control of hypocalcemia, attending the calving very, very well. The first puerperium and the second puerperium, handling of the semen, good insemination. So if we work better and better in the transition, the incidence of the sick cows will be lower, and will be easier to find cows that between 50 and 60 days are at their third manifestation of the estrus. So I believe that at the same time is not a good strategy, those that suggest to improve the day of lactation of the cows to reduce the number of the calving during their career. It's like if I don't take the license for the car because there are car accidents. I believe that we have to work very, very well and not to find a scamotage to avoid the problem. So working very well, attending very well the health of the cows, to see the cow in it will be absolutely easier. And so with this perspective, the use of the synchronization will be limited only to those cows that are not showing it with or without CL, or the cows that at the end of voluntary waiting period will be 50, 60 days in milk. This cow have one or two, less than two estrus manifestation. So we are speaking that probably we can limit the use of the hormones to 20, 25, 30% of the cows. Well, if we are able to do a good interpretation of the repro management and trying to open our mind, I believe that will be possible to attend the production respecting animal welfare and the food safety in every typology of production, in small farm, in big farm, in intensive system, and in an extensive system. So at the end, my convincement is that there is no single way to handle the reproduction, but surely we must all remember the ethical value of what we do. We have a duty to feed an humanity that is over increasing, and where also is increasing difficulty. And to do this, we must be able to apply both simple and complex things. And remembering that the welfare of the animal have always to be granted, but also the safety of the people. Well, I finished it. I want to invite everyone to follow our Instagram. Our Instagram is dedicated only to reproduction and herd management. Thank you very much for your attention.
Giovanni, thank you very much for as Emil has just written in the chat, a presentation full of wisdom. Very, very good. So a lot of inputs, and I am convinced you are completely right when you say that there are different way when you say, I've just taken my note, that what works at your neighbors doesn't have to work at yours, but this is exactly what we need to do, not to copy and paste what the other do, but to share our experience, to share the information, just to have the possibility of comparing and to see whether what is done close can be used also to improve our production, our performance, and so on. Thank you very much. And this is the reason why we try to have these webinars to compare what we do in the different part of the world.
Arcangelo.
Yes, Giovanni.
Can you give me 5 seconds, please?
Yes, of course.
Because I want to clarify that my position until 10 years ago was very, very radical. And I was absolutely convinced that the solution was synchronization. And the reason why I am arrived to this convincement in the last 10 years is for one person that is listening this webinar, that is Professor Sali. That when everyone was pushing for synchronization, was the only one that was telling, attention, guys, attention, because this is not the solution. It is not the only solution. So I believe that we have a very big debt of gratitude to this person. I want to recognize this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for mentioning this. I think everybody that knows Professor Sali can acknowledge what you have just said. Yes, so I don't. Perhaps we have some question in the chat from Sudan. From Sudan, it says, thanks very much for the seminar. My first question to Professor Walter: do you allow foreign vets from Africa to be a member of the Austrian Association of Buiatrics? I don't know, Walter, if you want to answer.
I can say yes. You can become member of the Austrian Association for Buiatrics, but we edit our journal in German language, and we talk most of the time in German language. This is the problem. But if you speak German, no problem at all. Everybody who was listening today can contact me and can get a member of the Austrian Association for Buiatrics. We thank for that everybody is writing me email and say, I would like to become member of Austrian Association for Buiatrics.
Yeah, therefore, Dr. Kamara, of course, and also perhaps, you know, I think all the African friends that are also in this webinar knows that we as a WAB, as a World Buiatric Association, are seeking to involve more and more the African Buiatricians, the African veterinarians.
May I say, Councillor, one word for this guy from Africa, you see?
Yeah.
He has one colleague who speaks German. He can become member and he receives the literature from us, the journal and whatever you see, and invitations for meetings and so on. But if he is only speaking English, I think it doesn't make sense really to become member. So it's only 50 euros a year, but anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Dr. Kamara understood. Unfortunately, there is a local association, and therefore the language is German language, Austrian language. I continue with Dr. Kamara. He has another question, and then I go to Professor Sanusi, that is from Nigeria. Dr. Kamara asks, this is for you, Giovanni. What kind of hormones do you prefer, natural or synthetic?
Well, the discussion between prostaglandin, I believe that is absolutely clear. There is no difference between natural and synthetic prostaglandin for luteolytic effect. For the interval between injection and estrus, between injection and totally utilizes, and also about the graph follicle size. There are two different papers. One is Stevenson Patak, 2010. The other one is Richard Poosley, 2012. In total are more than 7,000 cows. And the conclusion is that no difference. So for me, it's more important how we manage the hormones, the compliance, than the typology of the hormones. And well, about the generate, I believe that I think the same.
Yeah, thank you, Giovanni. And now the question of Professor Sanusi. I'm not clear on what your view that synchronization is a mistake essentially in developing countries. So what can we do in the developing countries? Well,
okay. When I work in South Africa, in big farms, we use only synchronization. But when I was working in Bolivia or in Ancash or in Peru, in some community where they were working with 1, 2, 3 cows. Well, I think that to do a synchronization like pre-cinch of cinch with 6 injection or double of cinch with 7 injection, I don't know if it's the correct way. So I repeat, I'm not against the synchronization, but I believe that there are other priority in this country that the diffusion of the synchronization. So also in farming, big farms in North Africa and in Middle East, we work with synchronization. So it was not a discrimination that I was doing. It was only for the typology of the farm. So also in Europe, in farms with 5,000 or 6,000 milk, I believe that to use a double of cinch, if it is not a therapeutical use, is anachronistic.
I think this will be a long life discussion also for the future. So hormones, how many, how much, how strong, and so on. Therefore, perhaps the discussion will be continuing in the future. So I would say we are done. We don't, because there are many practitioners that need to go back to their work. So we had many inputs. We received many inputs from both presentation. I would like to remind all the participants that all the presentations of our webinars are in the YouTube, can be downloaded, can be seen again in the YouTube channel of the WAB. And I just would like to invite the participant to eventually, if they have some suggestion on future topics, we try to have general problems, because as we involve people, colleagues from all parts of the world, we cannot be too targeted on some specific topics. But if you have some suggestion also to give your opinion on this webinar, please do it, because we started the webinar in practically last year in October after I took the role of president, and therefore perhaps we need to also to improve the type of webinars that we have been running. Therefore, if you have a suggestion, please do it. If you like to have some topics and some issues presented, we can try to look for them, and also for the members of, if there are some, I see some of them, representative of the local association. If you like to start to act as volunteers for the next webinars in the future, it will be your time. I see some president, for example, from Slovenia. I see from Canada, Emil, also you. We had already Japan, we have already done. Germany, we have already done. So I see many of them. Therefore, please, if some of you like to start to present his association and to present the local situation, please do it. I see Professor Alali from Egypt. I would like to thank for your presence. We thought of you very often because of from for the problems that all these countries in North Africa have been recently in Morocco, in Egypt, in Libya, and so on. Therefore, yes, therefore, that's all. I would say I said everything.
Alali is from Morocco.
Yeah, from Morocco, not from Egypt. Alali is from Morocco, and I wrote an email to Professor Alali just to sympathize for what happened with the earthquake in Morocco. So, okay. So thank you to everybody. Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you, Walter, for this nice afternoon here in Italy. I apologize because sometimes it's difficult. I know that some of you started to attend the webinar a couple of years before. I know the time, the zone is different. When we send the invitation, we put the Greenwich Mean Time. Please take care of the difference of time. Peter, if you like to finish, if you have something as our secretary, thank you, Peter, for having organized again the webinar. Peter is sailing in this moment, therefore you don't see his office, but you see the boat. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, and we will send the invitation for the next. We are planning the next time. We will inform you. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you,
Thank you very much,
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.